Hey guys! I traveled to Sapelo Island for an educational research trip. Sapelo Island is a national estuarine research reserve. An estuary is where fresh water from rivers and streams mix with salt water from the ocean. The University of Georgia has a marine institute at Sapelo Island and is kind enough to let a wide variety of colleges and universities use their institute for educational field trips. This trip was for a specific geology and biology class that I was not a part of, but the people at Georgia State were kind enough to invite me to come along with the class, which is a very sweet thing to do. This program helps educate a lot of students. They actually serve 50 to 60 groups of university students every year, which is a huge number. Just by taking a look at their calendar, you can see how packed it is. I didn't even realize it was this many institutes using it so often. Okay, so let's talk about the history of Sapelo. There was this guy named Thomas, and he honestly looks very scary on Wikipedia. I mean, he was a pretty scary guy. He and his children owned 385 enslaved people on Sapelo. One cool thing, though, was that they used tabby for their buildings. Tabby is a material that uses lime, water, sand, oyster shells, and ash. It's a pretty strong material to use, especially considering that you can still find the ruins of these tabby buildings that were made around the 1820s. When the Civil War ended, Sapelo remained a huge African-American community. A lot of the free people purchased land on Sapelo and created a lot of settlements, the most popular one being the Hog Hammock community. Later on, most of the Gullah Geechee people moved off of Sapelo since it had no markets and no jobs. Every Sunday, a lot of people will come to Sapelo for church since they are the descendants of the Gullah Geechee people. With the background out of the way, let's start with day one. We spent around 5 hours in a van driving to Sapelo. When we got there, we had to go onto a ferry. I met this awesome person who explained to me the different types of seagulls. Like this one right here is a laughing gull since it has that black face. When we arrived on Sapelo, we had to get into the back of this vehicle. It was very funny having to scream duck to not get hit by a tree branch. Finally, we got into our dorms and I wanted to find an alligator, so I hiked all of the swamp area and found no gators, but I did find an armadillo, which was really cool. This was my outfit for the day. It was pretty late outside, but I decided to go on a night beach walk. Sadly, the GoPro was bad at filming at night, but we got to look inside this cool wet lab to examine the stuff we found on the beach. On day 2, we got to go to this fishing expedition. Fun fact, this boat was named after the marsh grass. Okay, for context, this guy went up to my GoPro, said, "Look at this," and then snapped the shrimp in half. After this, we filled the wet labs with ocean water to try to keep the creatures alive to look at later on. Also, this place had like 50 bikes, so I decided to go on a cool bike ride.
Which one?
I was all the way at the end of the road, and then this guy texted me on Discord to let me know that apparently our class was leaving to go to the beach, so I had to book it back. This beach trip was mainly for the geology students to dig a trench and take samples.
It's like a level. Look at this guy. He's not big enough, but he's pretty good. Listen.
How long does he want? What?
I think he needs some new arms. I got one of his arms. I got both of him. Here he goes. Where's the rest of his colony? Hey, buddy.
This was so wholesome. So one of the geology students came up to me and was like, "Addie, is this crab lonely? He's alone." It was so wholesome. We did one last trip at the wet labs. This lab taught us how to identify organisms. This crab was actually alive, but he was being so kind to let me look at him under a microscope. Anyways, we had a lot of fish at the end, so you know what that means.